Hey everyone, I'm here with Trevor Hall, also known as AKA Rampriya Das to me. Hi, how you doing, Rampriya?
I'm good. I'm wrong.
Yes, we all have these dual personalities, by the way. Everybody, all the Maharaji people. Uh, I went by when I was in the record business. I went by Mitchell and Raghu, and it depended on who. And then people got mixed up and started calling me one or the other names, on a day-to-day basis.
Raghu Mitchell,
Yeah, because it could be, right?
right?
Anyhow, so it's been a while since we've sat down like this, hasn't it?
I
Y-
guess it would have been Hanuman Gardens.
Yeah, no, but we haven't done a podcast in over a year or
Yeah,
about a
yeah,
year or something.
yeah, of
Uh,
course.
and what drives these things, of course, a lot of the time is the fact that Trevor has a new album that's coming
Yeah,
out, because we got to say that right off the top,
yeah.
because we want everybody to check it out, and it is available when?
It comes out on June 1st.
Okay. June
Yeah,
1st is quick coming, soon come. So,
yeah,
and you can get it anywhere. What if you want a physical copy? Now you have to ask people, what about a physical copy? Is that still existent?
yeah. We'll have physical copies, and that will be available through our website through trevorhallmusic.com. But and we'll also have some vinyl being printed as well. So if you're
Oh,
into the
vinyl.
classic, yeah,
Oh, great. So we're going to play a couple of things as we go along here in the podcast. But Fruitful Darkness, of course, that's the most intriguing uh,
right.
part of this whole game here. And tell me a little bit about what you had in mind when you named the record Such a Thing, which is
Right.
rings a bell for me.
Right. Well, I did it. I mean, at the time, whenever an album is coming through, I don't really like to I like to just give it space and let it do its own thing and take its own direction. And when these songs were coming through, I kind of had a rough idea, I guess, of like what I wanted it or what I thought it was going to be about, but it wasn't rounding out, I guess, and I wasn't able to find the title like this. Um, and then I had purchased a book when my wife was in. There's a little ant in my room. I had purchased a book called The Fruitful Darkness by Roshi Joan Halifax. Um, I found it in a bookstore and I just looked at the title and I thought the
Mm.
title was cool. I didn't really look at who wrote it or what the book was about. I just was like, oh, this is cool. I'll buy this. And then
Yeah.
put it on my nightstand and it sat
Mhm.
there for like whatever, a few months. And then my wife, Emery, was reading it and she was like, oh my gosh, you have to read this book. This is like talking about your journey right now. And
Mm.
I think you're going to derive so much inspiration from it. And I'm like, oh, yeah, yeah. And then she says, and I can't believe that we met the author. And I was like, what do you mean we met the author? Because I didn't look at the author's name when I bought the book. And she said, yeah, we met Roshi Joan at Ramdas's house in Maui. And I was like, oh my God, 3 years before
Yeah.
that, whatever it was, we were at Ram Dass's house and they had a talk with Franco Stasecki and we met her very briefly. So I was like, oh my God, it's so small world. So I ended up reading the book and it was just totally speaking to me, especially with the process I was going through and also the process of what the songs were about. And I couldn't really think of anything better to call the album. I was like, I really want to call this album Fruitful Darkness.
Mm.
So I tracked down Joan's email through you and I emailed her and said, hey, I'd like to I'd like to call this album, The Fruitful Darkness. And she wrote me back this like very Zen Cohen like email that was like, dear Trevor Rampriya, you can use the title, but I don't think you should use the title. But I'm going to leave it up to you. So you can use it, but don't use it, but you can use it.
No.
Pretty much like that, you know. So at the end of the email, I was like, okay, I'm going to use it. She said I could use it. But now it was just a funny process. But it was pretty interesting how it all came full circle from that, you know, buying this book and not even knowing that I had met her and like this. So
Wow.
very, very interesting.
Oh, that's so great. All right. Well, but getting at more at the core, like you were going through stuff. Well, we're all
Yeah.
going through stuff. We
I
can
mean,
just call it. Go ahead.
yeah, I was going through darkness. um, yeah, I was definitely going through a lot of things. I was going through like astrologically a period called the Saturn return, which is when the planet Saturn, you know, comes back to its original position in your chart. It happens like every 30 years, and it happens to all of us, and it usually happens from like the age 28 to like 30. So I was going through this thing, and it was interesting. You know, I'd gotten very sick at the beginning of it, and found out that I had Lyme's disease, and found out, you know, I had this staph infection and all these things. And
Mm, mm,
I had to really like stop, you know, touring for a bit. And it was interesting because I haven't really ever stopped touring, you know, that much. And I found my physical, or if I found my like identity as a musician, like taken away from me, because my body was so frail that I literally was like living on the couch for like months, you know. But I
mm,
found this, I couldn't play, I had no inspiration. And I found myself, oh my goodness, my, if I'm not a musician, well then who am I? You know, this type of dilemma, right? Then I had to, you know, shave my jutta. I had these long jutta, you know, and
dreadlocks.
yeah, dreadlocks. And I felt I felt stripped of my physical identity, you know, because that I really held on to this thing, something that defined me like this. And then on top of that, I was, you know, all these things that I had based my, I think, person off of, like my spiritual path and all this stuff like this, I felt kind of no connection with anymore in this moment. And I felt like, oh my God, well, if I don't, then who am I if I'm not, you know, this? So there's this, it was all these things. It was like Kali's sword, just, you know, all these things taken away. And I realized how much I was basing myself in kind of like a spiritual materialism type way, you know,
Mm,
like, well, then who am I? Who am I? And at first it was really scary, you know, because obviously these things that defined myself, they were taken away, and I felt alone. I felt dry. I felt lost. And it was just a very scary time. It was like darkness. But, you know, I feel like as a culture, like specifically as like a Western culture, we're always scared of the dark. And Roshi Joan talks about this in her book. You know, we're always like the things that are undefined and the things that we can't explain, we turn away from, you know, because they scare us. And as a Western culture, we're so obsessed with explaining things and knowing things because it helps us, I think, feel like we're in control. And the things that we can't explain, we are scared of and we run away from. But Roshi Joan is talking about in her book about how these shamans, all these different shamanic cultures and indigenous cultures that she was with, you know, the shaman's journey is to turn into the dark. It's to face the dark. It's to befriend the dark. It's to befriend your demons and say, hey, come in, sit down. What can I do for you? Rather than try to get them out, you know. And she said, when that happens, those dark spaces, those demons or whatever you want to call them, are really like our greatest gurus, our greatest teachers. And the greatest lessons can happen of when we turn into the dark, when we face death or, stuff like this. So and when I did do that, as best I could, um, I learned so much about the greatest, it's the hardest time of my life, but really the greatest time of my life with the lessons that I learned. And that's why I just thought the Fruitful Darkness, title, I mean, I couldn't get anything better. And luckily Roshi Joan gave me a very cryptic yes.
You got to send her a physical record. You got to do that.
Mm-hmm.
She would love it. Now, of course, this totally fits in, and I think we mentioned it once in the last few days when we've been texting or talking. Ram Dass, of course,
Right.
and
Who's that?
talk about his darkness.
Right.
Talk about his identity being ripped away.
Right.
The Siddhi that he had of talking and being able to be like a Lenny Bruce on steroids, spiritual
right.
talking. Gone. Talk about darkness. Talk about loss of role that you were identified with and stripped,
Exactly.
and which is why he says today, this was an incredible thing that happened because it forced me inside to
Right.
be not and not expecting anything. I mean, on and on and on. What that did. I mean, I who could handle such a thing? This is 21 years later.
Right.
Rampriya. So certainly, fierce grace.
Exactly.
Is another way to express fruitful darkness. But here's something else. I just happened to see this from Ram Dass, actually. When Buddhists talk about the preciousness of a human birth, it's the awareness associated with human birth that's the opportunity. Awareness, that's the opportunity. We become aware to bring ourselves to higher consciousness. Suffering is part of it. It's all grist for the mill of developing awareness. What's here in front of you is what you can be aware of. It's food for enlightenment. It's your part in this passing show of life.
Wow.
Great,
That's
huh?
it.
So great.
That's it. Grist for the mill.
Yeah. And so, yeah, if we all take that perspective, things really do change. And but, it takes like what happened to you. Everybody gets that kind of moment in their life where it's really tough and tremendous suffering and disconnection and separation and so on. And especially the toughest thing is around what we identify ourselves with, who we are. And you got into Ramana Maharshi's "Who am I really here?" Because
I mean, I thought about that on a great level. I mean, that was definitely. It's not even a question that I had to ask myself. It was just the question that was just in front of me.
Yeah,
and as
no
Ram
choice.
Dass, as you just said, Ram Dass said, about his stroke is that your suffering, it forces you inside. There's no going around it. And you can fight with it all you want, but you're gonna lose, and you have to turn in and face it,
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, we should play something from the album. God's sake. What are we talking about? Music. Okay, so here's a song that I really like. If I Was a Warrior.
Oh, I love that one. I'm glad you said that.
What about that programming? Did you do that programming with the rhythm tracks and stuff?
I did that with the producer, my friend, and we were talking, and I told him I really wanted to do something really out of the box, like for me, because part of the fruitful darkness on a spiritual journey, that's one thing, but also the fruitful darkness on a sonic journey was I wanted to really push my boundaries and go into things that maybe I wouldn't normally do.
Yeah.
So we did that. And I don't know if you've noticed, but Maharaji's Rams are right in the beginning of that.
Are you seriously asking me this question?
I didn't know, because a lot of devotees that I played it, they didn't know. They didn't know that. You got to
But
listen closely.
I know, but I'm a really good listener. Okay. That was part of my job. It still is for everything I do, the details around the production of whatever.
Right.
No, it's fantastic. And of course, the
Yeah.
combination of that, and then the words are great too, Rampriya. And,
Yeah.
but I love the programming, the
Yeah.
rhythm.
It
Oh,
was
it's
very
just,
interesting. I came up with that guitar lick, and then the producer put that behind, and the poem just really popped out of me at that
mm,
moment.
it's great.
And it's drawing from a lot of different things, but I was very affected by Chogyam Trungpa's book Shambhala, The Path of Warriorship,
Mm,
and what it means
mm-hmm,
to be like a true warrior.
mm-hmm,
And so I was asking, it started with that question, like if I was a warrior, what would be my weapon? Right. And in the West, we think warriors are like, knives and guns and
yeah,
whatever, like going into battle.
yeah,
But it's a different type of warrior. And so I answer my question, forgiveness, laughter, sound, and
mm,
launch into this whole kind of, I don't know, journey of taken from different places. Like I remember where I say my richest sky and ground. We went to see this famous sadhu in Allahabad, in Prayag, and he
mm,
lives under this tree right on the banks. And he has nothing. He's just under the tree, but he's this very famous sadhu. And we went there and we asked him. He actually, we didn't really ask him anything. He just kind of launched into this thing of like, we're poor, like we have nothing. We are here, like just our fire and like this, but we are happy. And he said, my riches, and he pointed to, like, he was like, my riches. He was like, Akash,
yeah.
sky. And then he took their dirt and he was like, Bhumi,
Mm,
my riches. And
mm,
the way he said it, it was just like, oh my God. So
totally.
all these little things, it's cool because that poem, all these little memories, all these little things are
Mm,
placed in there.
that's so great. All right. Well, without further ado, as they say,
Yeah.
here is If I Was a Warrior.
If I was a warrior, what would be my weapon? Forgiveness, laughter, sound. My riches, sky and ground. Like the smell of pine in forests that drip divine. Darkness sublime in a blue sky mind. Stainless. Turn the pages of a story of circles. Where I am that I am. Where all paths join hands in the lands I remember. Where I am returned to my sender. Fully surrounded, I surrender. Where the darkness illumines, my doubts lay in ruin.
All right. Well, that says it all, everybody. I don't think we need to say any more because really, really with music, it is so visceral and so beyond mind, which is why it is such a transformative
Right.
possibility for people
Right.
if it done properly. Uh, Thank you for that. I
Thank
really
you.
love that. All right, so another I have to get to something else because
Yeah,
it's part of the record. The record's really a lovely journey, and a part of this journey was also took place in India. And I was telling Trevor before we got on, my favorite song on the album,
yeah,
which
up
is
there.
it's not just because of the music, but it's because of the experience that I was sort of intimately involved with in the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. We're intimately involved with.
So I'll set the table, and then you have to tell the story.
Yeah,
So for many years, Trevor's been going to India. He has his gurus and teachers, and every time not, I don't want to be too dramatic, but a number of times, you haven't gone to Kenchi to see Siddhi Ma? What?
probably every time.
Probably every time. And then I tattled on you to Krishnadas. You know what? This fucking Trevor doesn't even have the sense to go up. I swear I used to do that. And he'd go, "What?" I'll talk to him. Anyhow, so thank God. But 2 years ago, is it now?
Oh
Or
God,
is it a year ago?
feels like yesterday, but it was
I
2 years, I
It
think.
was 2 years ago, yeah.
Yeah.
So 2 years ago, he says to me, "Mr. Hall, I am going to India. And I am going to make a point. Can you help me?" And
Yeah.
long and the short of it is, she was in Rishikesh, and he managed to get there. And after we organized some stuff here and there with people, and then you arrived in the ashram and tell the story.
Well, I just want to clarify
Oh,
that
oh,
it wasn't that I mean, did not want to see her. It was exactly opposite of that. But the only time I was able to travel to India, really the best months were like December, January. And Kanchi was always closed at that time.
mm,
So I felt like it was from my understanding that, oh, it's closed, you can't go.
mm,
And so I thought, man, for me, it was like, when am I going to be able to go in the proper months? And with my work and tour and everything, it just never. So it wasn't for lack of trying. Right.
okay. All right.
Okay.
I
So
accept it.
anyway, yeah, I called Raghu and pulled his ear and bothered him a lot. And, we were told that um, it's something that you have to play by ear because of Ma's health. And
Yeah.
you just kind of have to, take the chance, I guess. So we went to Rishikesh, my wife, Emery Bashanti, and I, and we pretty much went there obviously for the purpose of seeing her. And we were there all week, and um, I was told that Ma was only giving darshan on one day, on Sunday. She gives public darshan, and you can come on like that's the time. And it was funny because I remember I asked you. I said, "Oh well, what time is darshan?" And you said like 11. And then I asked like Prema, I think it was, "What time is darshan?" She said 10. Then I asked the Banu, the temple manager, "What time is darshan?" He said noon. So I think we got there at like 8. I was like, we're gonna go at 8:30 because I'm not missing like anything. But anyway, we went. I remember we went Friday evening, and I said, "Oh, let's just go," to my wife. "Let's just go because you haven't seen the temple, and like, let's just go. Like, no problem. We'll go for evening arti, and maybe Ma will like come out. Like, who knows? Like I didn't know." So anyway, we went there, and we did the evening arti, and I remember looking over the fence, being like, "Oh my God! Like I can't. She's back. Like, is she back there? Like this type of thing." And I remember before we went, we bought this white, like beautiful, like expensive, like shawl for Ma.
Hmm.
And I remember I brought it Friday night, and I thought, oh, maybe if I tell Banu that I brought this for Siddhi Ma,
No.
like he'll let me see her, right? Like how foolish I was. So I go up to him and I say, Banu, my name is, Rampriya, Raghu told you about blah, 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 blah. And he said, yeah, yeah. And he was kind of gruff, like he's pretty like a little bit gruff character, right?
Mm-hmm.
And because he's, he has to manage the whole place. And I said, oh, I brought this shawl from Ma. Is it possible for me to give it to her now? And it was funny because he kind of took the shawl and he like looked at it and he was like, come Sunday, and like threw it, back at And I was like, oh yeah, no problem. But I remember I went back into the Hanuman temple and I sat down and I felt really gross. I was beating myself up and I thought, how foolish of myself to think that I could buy this great being's darshan with a shawl, and it really, in that moment, I was really like intense about it. And I thought the question that was coming to me, and it was all Baba's play, of course, but it was like, what is a pure offering? What is a pure offering that seeks nothing in return? It chokes me up a little bit now because it was so intense, and I just felt like, ugh, why did I do that? You idiot, So we left, and I remember the next day there was this huge storm in Rishikesh, like it was cold and rainy and lightning. And the whole day I was freaking out because I was like, I hope this doesn't affect our darshan tomorrow. I hope this doesn't affect our darshan tomorrow. So the whole day I was in the hotel just like freaking out, whatever. Next day, I order the car. Like I said, we go like super early because I was like, there's no way that I'm missing, this darshan. And we get there and I have our fruit and we go around the temple, and then we're just sitting kind of at the front of the temple where Banu and like the other Indians are. And while we're in the temple, this Western woman comes up to us and says, are you friends with Nina? Are you Rampriya? And I said, yeah. She said, oh, my name's Shama, right, from New York. And she said, Nina told me that you would be here. And so we start talking to her, and she had been with Ma many times. And so I was asking her, oh, what is it like? And I felt good that she was there because I didn't know the protocol. Like, are we allowed to touch her feet or should we not? And blah, blah, blah. So she was being very sweet to us. But time was going on, and I was like, what's happening? And she said, oh, let me ask Banu. I'll go ask Banu what time the darshan is, because it was getting late, And I remember she walked over to him. It was like he was maybe like 15 feet away. And I couldn't hear them, but I could see her facial expression. And she was kind of smiling. And then she goes, oh. And I knew it right then. My heart just sank. And she walked back to me and she was like, I'm so sorry, but darshan's canceled. Oh. And I just went into a black hole. Talk about the darkness. I went into this serious black hole.
The fruit wasn't so visible then.
The fruit wasn't visible at all. I couldn't talk to anybody. I was, my wife was like, are you okay? Like, are you okay? And I walked up to Banu. I thought, it's shattered. It's over. This is my one chance. It's done. Because we were leaving the next day. So there was no chance of us staying on like this. And I walked up to Banu and I was totally sobbing, being dramatic. And I just said, Banu, can you give this to Siddhi Ma for me? And I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was because I was crying or whatever, but he looked at me and something changed in him, because before, like I said, he's very gruff, And he said, when are you leaving? And I said, Banu, we have to leave tomorrow. And I just looked at him. I said, Banu, I've come so far. Please. Like I was begging, And he said, go to the temple and chant, I remember. And so I said, okay, well, that wasn't a yes and that wasn't a no. So I'm gonna go. So we go into the temple. And the pujaris bring out the mic and the harmonium, and we're sitting in front of Hanuman. And I remember sitting down, and I said, Rampriya, you better chant your freaking ass off right now. Like, that was my mentality, you know. And so I started Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, and I just sang my heart out for like an hour. And as I was doing it, I was going through all these waves. I was looking at all these pictures of Maharaji, and I was like, you don't care about me. Like, is this all like a who did I think I was, you know? And then it was like, no, have faith, Rampriya. Like, have faith in Maharaji's feet, and that everything's planned. And then it was like, you're awful. It's because you tried to buy Siddhi Ma with your shawl. You're an awful person. And it was like this ping pong match, you know. So then I stopped. Nobody came to get us. We're all sitting at the front of the temple, again, where Banu is. And I just kind of made the sankalpa, made the intention. I was like, you know, I'm just going to sit here all day until 11 at night. The temple gates close, and I'm not going to eat anything. I'm not going to move from this spot. Like, I was so like determined. But time was going on, and I was like, you know, Rampriya, maybe you should just leave. Like, just, you know. And my wife was just trying to comfort me and all this stuff. And Shama and Prema were there. We were all talking. And then people started leaving the temple, you know, all the visitors. And pretty soon it was just us four. And Banu walks out from behind the gate, you know, where in the other side of the ashram. And he points to me and he says, come. And I remember I shot up from my seat. Bashanti and I are walking towards it. All of us are walking towards him. And he turns to Shama and Prema and he says, no, just them, you know, just two. So I was like, oh my God, like, this is crazy, you know. So we're walking behind Banu. And I remember I looked at Bashanti and I said, try and hold it together. And I was already crying. So I was like, this is ridiculous, you know. So we get to around the ashram, and he unlocks this gate, and there's these stairs that go up around the house up to the roof. And he just said, go. And like, I was like, okay, where do I go? I'm just going to go up these stairs. But in this song, you know, this song is all the meditation of that time, recalling all the different things I remember, recalling all the things, so I can be put back in that space pretty much. And I remember walking up those stairs. That's the line in the song. And I remember so clearly walking up those stone steps, thinking like, any moment, this moment I've been waiting for so long, like, what am I going to do? You know? And I remember we came up around the corner, and the first glimpse of her, she was sitting in the sun, stainless white cloth, and Jaya and her other attendant were sitting next to her. And immediately I kind of, you know, it was like we were brought into this vortex, this like protective like dome up there on that roof, you know. But I remember first seeing her, and I immediately thought of the goddess, obviously Durga, with her, because she has two attendants, she has two gatekeepers. And I thought, oh my God, this, and one of them, Jaya and Vijay. So I was like, this is too much, you know. And we walked up to her, and we both just fell in full pranams. And she had on these like brown socks, I remember so clearly. And we were just sobbing, you know, and we sat up, and we were just sat with her for the first few minutes in silence. And I was just, what can you say? You know, what can you say? And I remember looking at the wrinkles on her hands. You know, her hands were so wrinkled and so human, but so godly, so I don't know how to say. It was just, it really struck me. And in the song I sing, you know, I remember looking at the wrinkles on your hands, reminding me of rivers in the Holy Land. You know, there was just all these different patterns, you know.
Mm.
And she was just looking at us in silence, and we were just bathing in that presence. And I remember I looked at Jaya. I said, "Are you Jaya?" She said, "Yes." And we were talking, and I was, you know, just asking how is Ma's health and how did you come? Like, you know, the formal things. And then I said, would it be okay to sing Ma a song? And Jaya looked at me, she says, I don't see why not. And so my wife and I, we sang this bhajan that for Ma Durga that I always thought of Siddhi Ma when singing this. And all the years before, I thought, oh, if I ever saw her, this is how would I feel like her presence would feel like when I sing this bhajan. So to be able to offer it to her was something. So we sang, and as we were singing, she was like tapping her foot, and that was like, oh, you know, like she knows she's hearing this, you know. And we got done singing, and we gave her shawl, and some more time went by, and then Ma turned to Jaya and like signaled her with her eyes or something. Jaya knew exactly what to do. She gets up and she goes, and then we're sitting with Ma like by ourselves. So we're like, this is just wild, you know. And she comes back with 2 shawls, and Ma gives a shawl to Bashanti, and then she gives a shawl to me. And it was just like the ultimate like prasad, you know. And I remember when how did it go? Oh, we were getting up to leave, and no, I'm sorry. After we sang, we were kind of getting up, and she said, I forget the exact order, but Jaya said, sing to Ma wherever you are, because she can hear you. And I was just like, oh my God, you know, because for me, music is that communication with Ma, with Baba, with the spirit. And, you know, on some level, I feel like they're listening, you know, but that was just like this stamp of like confirmation, you know, and it just totally just hit me so hard. And then she raised her hands up in the sky as we were leaving. It was so sweet. It was like she was dancing like Lord Chaitanya or something. Jaya said, rejoice, we have met the best of them. That's what she said. And it was just so magical. And I remember when we were walking down the stairs, my eyes were not leaving Ma, because I was trying to like sip in every last little moment. And then we got down and like this. But when we got down, we were kind of in this daze, you know, and we walked out the ashram, and we're like back in this world, you know, like rickshaws and like sellers and Bashanti kept turning to me and she said, what just happened up there? What just happened up there? She kept saying, repeating it. And that's that line that really stuck with me in the song, is just tell me what just happened up there, you know? And so really the song for me is like I said, it's like a tool for me to go back into that vortex, Ma's vortex. It's a tool for me to remember all the different details of that meeting, so I never forget it. So it's always with me, it always stays with me. So it's it's an extremely special song, you know, on the album, and I'm happy that it came through.
Yeah, to say the least. Here it is. Up There.
Tell me what just happened, lonely. I remember walking up those stairs. We were stepping into a sacred light. And tell me what just happened up there. I remember looking at the wrinkles on your hands, reminding me of rivers in the Holy Land. Tell me what just happened over there. I know. You can hear my soul. You can hear my soul. I know. You can hear my soul. Tell me what just happened over there. I remember walking up those stairs. We were stepping into a sacred light. And tell me what just happened over there. I remember looking at the wrinkles on your hands, reminding me of rivers in the Holy Land. Tell me what just happened over there. I know. You can hear my soul. You can hear my soul. I know. You can hear my soul. You can hear my soul. You can hear my soul. I know.
So all I have to say is that, and I've told you this before, that every time I do hear this song, and you send it to me right after you first maybe even had a rough mix or something.
No, I think I sent it to you like off my phone when I was
Oh,
just
really?
like recording the idea,
Oh,
you know.
well, every time I hear this song, I am right there in that
Yeah.
darshan, and so I really have to thank you for that. I mean, it's just actually it reminds me very much, and this is hard for me. It's the it would be the mantra, the chants,
Mm.
with a certain a very specific kind of longing melody that gets me right into divine presence
Right.
right away. So it's rare that a pop song, in the big warp and woof of it,
Right.
would do something like that. Just for me, I mean, it's just my crazy psychology. But
Right.
the only recently, I mean, Krishna Das has a new, well, he put it on his last record. That's to Maharaji, Neem Karoli
Mm.
Baba, and it's the first time he ever used that in the lyrics, and he came up with a melody, and every time we do that together, it's again darshan. So this is quite a wonderful thing to be able to express that deepest
Yeah.
presence. I mean, it really
Yeah.
is. And by the way, everybody out there, Siddhi Ma did pass. We are May of 2018. She passed at the end of 2017. In fact, and I've mentioned this before, we were fortunate, Krishnadas and I, and some others, to be able to see her a couple of months beforehand. We got really lucky circumstances, and we saw her every day for a week while we were there. So this is someone who Neem Karoli Baba Maharaji more than once said was an emanation. If that's not probably the right word, he didn't say that. He said she is Durga. I'm couching it in psychological terms because I wouldn't know what that really means, except that whenever I was with her, that was self-evident that this was a being that represented the divine principle in body kind of form. I met others. Nanda Ma was also that, and with a different aspect, but this certainly Durga. And of course, Rampriya and I are both very fond of Durga.
Yeah.
So, and I don't know if I told you this, but I myself got an opportunity. I was with her. She said, "Why don't you do some chalisas? Like we used to do them 4 o'clock every day in Kenchi." And I said, "Okay, well, what about doing them here with you?" She said, "Okay." So then I got the harmonium, and got all the other Westerners that were there, and we went in the room, and it was quite a beautiful moment. But I said to her after we did a chalisa, "Can I do this? I have this other thing I want to do for you." She said, "Okay." And this is back in the day when she was communicating way more. Towards the end, she was much more silent. And so I did a prayer to Kali Durga that I think we did once together.
Yeah, we did that, I think, at Hanuman Gardens.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, I won't do it now. Disturb everyone with my versus Rampriya's voice. But I just, when I stopped, I had my eyes closed the whole time. When I stopped, she had a tear coming from her. It was, so that was the greatest moment. And this song brings me right back into that moment. And I guess we wouldn't be doing justice because one thing now, Rampriya Trevor has not done very much recording. Kirtan is a real practice for him. He does that for himself, for Maharaji, for the mother. But we did catch him at Hanuman Gardens, which is a beautiful retreat place that satsang people have in Ojai. And,
beautiful place.
And by the way,
that's right. That was right when we got back from seeing Ma.
Yeah,
It
exactly.
was only a few weeks after we got back.
Yeah.
So it was fresh.
Yeah, and my by the way is that we are getting together November 1 through 4, 2018, at Hanuman Gardens for the Ramdas Immersion Retreat, which how much have I been begging you to come back? Right?
Well, it's just I have other. I do you not think don't want to come back.
He's too busy. Anyhow, but who we got? We got Benji Wertheimer. Benji's going to come.
Oh, such a sweet soul.
Yeah, he's the sweetest soul alive. And Mirabai Star will be there, Saraswati Marcus, myself, and Duncan. We're going to play.
That's so great.
Duncan Trussell. So it's going to be, he wants to do some stuff. He loves, his thing is the Bhagavad Gita. So we're going to do some stuff around the Gita, which would be great. But we couldn't. So while Trev was there last year, I decided to just record. So I got somebody to come in and record. And, so far we've got 3 of the songs mixed. And nobody's ever heard this before. Okay?
Not even me, I don't think.
You've heard it. You had some comments, and we took care of them.
I had some comments.
Yeah. So this is what Rampriya sang to Ma, which is to the divine goddess.
Oh, yeah.
Jago Jago Ma. And, just take a listen to this and gives you it's a darshan. It's just another darshan of Mother. So here, Jago Jago Ma.
Jagadodarini Ma.A Durga Jagadodarini Ma. Jagadodharini Mata Durga Jagadodharini Ma Jago Jago Ma Jago Jago Ma Jago Jago Ma Janani Jago Jago Ma Jago Jago Ma Jago Jago Ma Janani Hey Gauri Devi Rana Chandi Devi Jaya Gauri Devi Rana Chandi Devi Jaya Shiva Ramana Jagoma 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 Jagadodharini Mata Durga Jagadodharini Ma Jagadodharini Mata Durga Jagadodharini Ma Jago Jago Ma Jago Jago Ma Jago Jago Ma Janani Jago Jago Ma Jago Jago Ma Jago Jago Ma Janani Hey Gauri Devi Rana Chandi Devi Jaya Gauri Devi Rana Chandi Devi Jaya Shiva Ramana Jagoma 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 Jagadodharini Mata Durga Jagadodharini Ma
So I think you all understand now a little bit more of what this means to Rampriya and his that moment that he had that got expressed finally in the song up there. There's a kind of beautiful combo of these two songs together. I don't know. There's something we should be doing with that. I don't know what it is. Maybe in your, because you do these wonderful things now, a town hall kind of, what are they called? That's not a town hall.
A Night in the Village.
A Night in the Village. It's like
Yeah,
a town hall.
it's a storyteller show that is actually like one of my favorite shows, but I have a slide projector on stage and I go through all the different inspirations. I show pictures of Ma.A and Sri Ramakrishna and Holy Mother, and at the end of the night I sing this prayer, Jago Jago Ma. And so some of our satsang, it's like Gagan and Jyoti, I think, came to one show, and Shama came to one, so
Mm.
it's been really sweet. But I don't get to do them that much in a year, but we're trying to make it something that I do a little more.
So the shows you're going out to do now are regular Trevor Hall shows.
Yeah, regular Trevor Hall shows, just playing, the new songs off the Fruitful Darkness, and um, yeah, continuing on.
Yeah, really. Busy, busy. So just I I think that I'd like to refer to what you started talking about when you started talking about the fruitful darkness,
Mhm.
and I guess one of the things while you were speaking and about your own personal experience of having that really dark time, and you talked about trying to make friends with
Right.
some of the darkness rather than pushing it away. And we talk about this a lot on this podcast because everybody on a day-to-day basis, it's really difficult, especially when stuff comes up, and it can be not so profoundly dramatic as what you had, being physically ill and on from there, and then going through all of the seeing the roles
Right.
and the identity slip away. It doesn't have
Right.
to be that dramatic. It can be just, just oppressed by dark thoughts, which everybody is on everyday
Right.
basis, to some degree or another. And it's just a matter of the glue that makes you stick to them, and then you start to really identify with them. And
Right.
I think it is a true thing here around making friends with suffering, with whatever darkness there is. And one of the biggest problems, this is what I was thinking when you were talking earlier, and I just made a note because I did want to mention it, is in the West, especially, we are so not, we want to be comfy. We want to be
Right.
comfortable
Yeah.
all the time. Just look, I
Yeah.
mean, I see it in myself and everybody. We just always opt for what will be the cushy thing in terms of response. And a lot of that is push it away because then we
Right.
don't have to deal with it.
Right.
And it is very difficult to do what you suggested, which is invite in. Ram Dass used to talk about this. He's the original mindfulness witness guy. He denies that, by the way. He keeps telling me, "What are you talking about? I have nothing to do with mindfulness." I said, "Well, witness? What? Are you kidding?" And so getting to the point where
Mhm.
you actually get the get your will up to it and have the courage. So courage is a big, is very
Right.
involved with moving away from being comfy. I think that this is something that, of course, if we do not practice on a day-to-day basis something or other, that's very difficult to get that courage up to invite this shit in and
Right.
just say, okay, what do you need? I'll give you whatever you need, but then you need to move on. And sometimes, by the way, everybody, just even speaking the shit out to a really close friend or the right
Right.
kind of person is inviting this in and going, yeah, it's
Yeah.
cool. So I just had to make that comment.
Yeah. No,
Um,
I am totally identify with that. I mean, it's a process that I still, am figuring out and will figure out for the rest of my life. But um, for me, I think where I'm at now is just the thing of not pushing it away. Just if I can just do that, then I give myself a pat on the back.
yeah, yeah.
I remember when I in 2011, I don't know what brought it on or whatever, but I was having these extreme anxiety like attacks, these like where I mean, it was crazy. I mean, I was on the road and I was like, I didn't know where it was coming from. And I was just so, I don't know, so worked up. and it's since, you know, gone away. But I remember at that time I went back to India and I thought, oh, I'm going to ask my Guruji, I'm going to ask who, you know, I feel like is all the answers, you know, like we do.
Mm.
I'm going to ask him about this and he's going to give me like the thing. He's going to give me like the magic secret mantra, you know, that like, or the magic meditation where
Yeah.
it's just all going to be gone, you know. And so I traveled halfway around the world, you know, to get there. I'm finally in front of him and I tell him, Guruji, I have all this, you know, anxiety and I don't know where it's coming from. Like, what do I do? You know? And he just sat like there for a little bit and I was like, he's about to give it to me. Oh yeah, he's gonna give me the thing, you know, the magic pill. And he just looks at me and he says, do nothing. And I was like, what? I came all the way around the world to hear do nothing. And he said, do nothing. And I remember at that time, I was like, oh God, like he didn't answer the question. But as time's gone on, that's the first step for me. Whenever I have these things that you're talking about or whatever, the first step is for me to not react and to do nothing.
Yeah.
And that's creates the space for me to turn in, whereas Ram Dass says, see it with loving awareness.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, and not push it away. The first step for me is not pushing it away.
Yeah.
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 That's what the whole journey is about, the Fruitful Darkness.
Yeah, do nothing, no reaction. Now, of course, you will have reaction. And what's happened over time when people ask me what's the best thing that's happened to you over time since doing this shit for so long, and it's the reaction thing. It's just I am not reacting anywhere near like I used to react without any kind of awareness at all, and really understand the motivations of the mind way better. So, yeah, that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, this is
Fruitful Darkness.
Long overdue with my Uncle Raghu.
Uncle, get out. Yeah. Oh God, it's great to see you and everybody. You'll see all the show notes on BeHereNowNetwork.com/mindrolling. Go to Mindrolling. You'll see all the show notes with all the links. You can, if this by the time this comes out, either you'll pre-order it or you'll actually order it. I can't tell what's going to happen because somebody else does that. But and also, you know, we'll link you up with Roshi Joan's Fruitful Darkness book because Roshi is phenomenal, as many of you know, who also listen to Ram Dass Here and Now on the podcast network, and that Roshi is such a close person to us all, and extraordinary teacher. So thank you again. And
thank you.
We will, Jai Ma, we'll see you again. Love you.
Love you.